Friends, we are going to discuss something about the PLC, its related status indicators, its troubleshooting, and some simple logic to start with, like AND logic, OR logic, NOT logic, in this video session. So, whenever you have a look at the hardware of the PLC, you will find that on the processor you have four LEDs, at least four LEDs. The first one is power on, which gives us the status of power, whether the PLC is energized or it is de-energized. The second LED is of run mode. PLC, if it is not being changed for its program or is not being freshly loaded for the program, it is running on the program which is already there in the memory. This is the mode where the PLC is normally expected to spend most of the life in run mode. Now and then, only when you want to reprogram certain sections of the PLC, you come out of this run mode and go to the program mode. Otherwise, you remain in this particular run mode only. The third LED, as you can see on the screen, is the programming mode. As I said, when you buy PC or PLC which is a fresh, then you have to program it for once, and then whenever there be any need to reprogram, then you go in for this programming mode. In that case, the run mode is switched over to the programming mode, so the run mode LED will be off and the programming mode will be on, but all the time through the power on indication that will remain on. Finally, we have the fourth LED, and this LED comes only when there is any fault. If the PLC develops any fault, any hardware fault, only in that case this fault LED turns on, and in that case we have to do something. We will be discussing what is to be done, how it is to be done, that we will be studying in the following session. The troubleshooting part, first of all, the first thing is that we have to look at the process. We have to look at the PLC status lights, and if the PLC status light that says halt means something has stopped the CPU. So what is that something? We have to investigate that. If it is in run, it means, as we have already said, that the PLC thinks it is okay and probably it is okay. So if it is in running mode and the PLC is not working as per our expectations, it means that something is logically wrong in the program. So we have to look at the program, but hardware part, it's all okay. If there is any error, if you find any error, it's a physical problem that has occurred in PLC. So that again, what kind of error it is, it can be probed. We have indicator lights on the IO cards and sensors. From those lights also we can get to know which input is high, which output is high, and accordingly we can see whether the signal is coming from the sensor, whether this sensor is being sensed by the input or not, whether the output is giving any voltage, its LED is on, whether the actuator is actually responding to that voltage or that signal or not. So all those things, they need to be in sync with each other. We need to connect all these things together and see where the problem lies. In case of any such error which you might see, the best way is to consult the manual or use the software if it is available. Manual is in the form of a booklet or a book, so you can go to a particular page, because every PLC has its own unique set of indicators, and therefore I cannot tell you at this stage that which is the journal manual instruction. If you buy company Allen Bradley, or you buy from Siemens, or you buy from Fanuc, every PLC manufacturer will have its own way to identify the errors as well as to troubleshoot the errors. Even for the one company, as you move on from one model to another model, each model will have its own unique manual, or it can have a CD, or it can have an online something support which you can consult. You can have platforms just the way we have platforms today, where people keep on guiding that for this kind of error, for this kind of situation, for this kind of the syndrome or the symptom which the PLC has developed, you should do. That's the way you go in for troubleshooting. But by and large, you have to first of all look at that whether it is in halt. If it is in halt, it means that the CPU is off. The CPU has, just the way we have watchdog timers which stop if it's in a continuous loop. So that kind of thing might have happened. There might have been some overflow, might have been some divide by zero kind of thing. You might have done it in the programming. That can all result in stopping of the CPU, apart from the hardware error which might be coming on account of chip getting failed inside the circuit. So you can have halt or you can have error, and again in error also you can have error with blinking of the LEDs. The blinking can be slow, the blinking can be fast. So all those things are again dependent upon the type of model which you are using, and in the manual each and everything will be given for that particular model. What you can do is that you use the programming terminal or the laptop as a programming terminal to get into, then there's something called force functions. Force functions are that actual output is something given by the program, but you want to check whether the actuator is working properly or not. So you can force that output on to check the actuator. You can force the output off to check whether the actuator is coming back to zero. Similarly, you can force some of the inputs on. You can force some of the input bits on to check whether the program is working as per your desired value or not. So that's way we need to use programming terminal or laptop to know the status of each and everything. So once you see the error or once you see any LED, the moment you connect a programming terminal or laptop to it, of course if it's a laptop, it has to have a dedicated program which converts your laptop into a programming terminal. You will get number of error messages written in text, and the possible way to troubleshoot that can also pop up in a window. That kind of thing is also possible, again depending upon the model and the software which you are using. So friends, I will also be discussing with you the list of items required when you are working with PLCs. First one, as I said, is programming terminal or a laptop or a desktop PC which can be used as a programming terminal. The second is the PLC software. The PLC manufacturers have their own specific software and a license key, and in this case you must not copy it, because anyway you are buying the hardware, the software has to be bought along with it. You just cannot have a cracked version of that. And we have had some communication cable to connect laptop to PLC. In this case, for example, we have to have also backup copy of the ladder program, and this backup copy of the ladder program which we have developed can be stored on a disk. Nowadays, hardly any disks are there, and CD-ROMs, hard disk, flash memory, pen drive, or whatsoever. So if there is nothing, you have to upload it from the PLC and store the backup. You must have backup copy of the ladder program. Otherwise, if this program is lost, you will have to manually key in the whole ladder diagram, and you have to keep its printout also to be on the still safer size. But that is the last resort we go in for. Better is to have backup copies with proper date and version written on it, so that you don't get confused whether you're using the latest program or the unrevised one. Finally, the thing which is most important is the documentation. And time and again, I've been telling you that you have to take care of this documentation. This is PLC manual. This is pertaining to the hardware. This is also pertaining to the software. The drawings, the ladder program printout, as I just mentioned, this printout is very important, and the sequence of operations manual. All this should be very safely kept at a place where it is accessible to your co-workers. Again, you can have a copy of that which can be kept as a master copy under lock and key, which cannot be accessed by normal people but has to be accessed only through some authentication, so that you have to give explanation why I need a master copy, what I've accidentally lost the backup which you have created, or we have to just keep it very safe manner, so that we don't land up in a trouble where in the middle of the night the process goes kaput, and then you are totally at loss where to look for its backup and restore the whole process. Now, having known this kind of knowledge, you having gained this kind of knowledge for the troubleshooting, we will now take up the examples of PLC programming software. And here we see the software which is normally used, which is perhaps the most commonly used one, which I have also had hands-on experience, and perhaps we will be doing it practically also, is RX Logix 500. This is something beautiful which I think you all can download in your laptops as a simulator and start working on it right away. This is Rockwell software. RS is for Rockwell software. RX RS Logix 500. This is the latest or the currently working programming software for Ellen Bradley. This is very nice as such to look and to work upon. There are some variants on this. Logix Pro is a variant on that, and so on and so forth. This is we will be discussing in the practical sessions also sometimes later. Modicon gives the programming software as Modsoft. Omron gives it with Sysmin. GE Fanuc series with gives the Logic Master 6. Square D calls it as Power Logic. Texas Instruments call it Sematic. Telemechanics calls it as Modicon TSX Micro, and so on and so forth. Every manufacturer has its own programming software, but the one which I recommend for you to start with is Rockwell Software RS Logix 500. That is one which gives you a fairly good idea. So once you train yourself on this logic or Logix Pro, which is quite similar to this logic, this kind of programming software, the remaining you can later easily shift over to as and when required. Coming back to the programming logic, so what you see is we have two inputs. One is called normally open and one is called normally closed. So some people say that this is NO and NC. It's perfectly alright to call NO and NC. But when NO gets energized, it gets closed. And when NC gets energized, it becomes open. So some people say that when NO gets energized, it becomes NC. This is wrong terminology. NO will never become NC. NO, normally open. It's normally open when in de-energized state. The moment it gets energized, it gets closed. Similarly, it is normally closed, means when it is in de-energized position, it is normally closed, but the moment it gets energized, it becomes open. You don't call it becomes normally open. Normally it was closed, it becomes open. So when the normally open is not energized, in that case we say its state is false. When normally open gets 1, its state becomes true. Its state becomes true. But in case of normally closed, when it's 0, then it is true, and when it is 1, it becomes false, because it's, you can see, it's just the opposite of 1 and 0. Normally closed, it is not energized, its status is true, right? And when it becomes energized, it becomes false. It becomes false. So we will see what is the meaning of true and false over here in the subsequent sections. So when the power flows through these contacts, when they are closed, so when it's normally closed, so it means that power is going to flow through it when there it's not de-energized. It's normally closed. Only when it gets energized, it becomes normally open. Normally open is the one which is not having any power, then it's not going to allow any power to flow through it. So when it is de-energized, it's not going to allow any power to flow through it. So to sum up over here, I will repeat these things in case you have any doubts about it. That normally open, it is de-energized. Normally it is false. The moment it becomes energized, it closes and its logic becomes true. I express the same thing for the second switch, which is normally closed. When it is de-energized, the power flows, so its status is true. But when it gets energized, it opens. Normally closed switch opens, and as it opens, the power flow stops and its status becomes false. So this is what you have to keep in mind all the time. So normally open is true when the input or output status of controlling bit is 1. But in case of normally close, this is true only when the input or output bit controlling status is 0. So it's just the opposite of in normally open. So I hope you will get used to these kind of notations as you go in for programming. This is what we call it as coil, or this is the output of any ladder, and this coil represents the relay that is energized when the power flows to that particular coil. So anything which is placed before this coil, you can have NO, you can have NC, you can have anything else. Only when the power flows, only when everything is true, 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 only then this coil will become energized, or you can say this coil will become true. We will come to the examples in a few moments from now. When the coil is energized, it causes a corresponding output to turn on by changing the state of the status bit controlling the output to 1. So when will it become 1? You know when AND gate becomes 1. You know when OR gate becomes 1. You know when NOT gate becomes 1. So whenever the output becomes 1, final output, this coil becomes 1. Then the output gets energized. Say if it is connected to a lamp, the lamp starts glowing. If it is connected to an alarm, the alarm starts blowing. So that is how it's going to turn itself on. The same output status bit can be used to control normally open or normally closed contacts anywhere in the program. So this coil, if it is, let us say, O1, not only this coil will control the output device, this O1 bit can be used as input to rest of the rungs also. This is the output, and this output can be fed back and used as input to rest of the programs. This also we will see in due course of time. Apart from that, the NO, NC and the coil, we have certain boxes. So these boxes, they represent some arithmetic unit, they represent some timer, they represent some counter, they represent some message to be written, they may represent some message to be read from some other PLC, so on and so forth. So these boxes are ultimately a kind of output boxes, and they execute only when the power flows to the box. So when the conditions are all true, true, true for the box gets energized, and finally this box performs the function of a timer or a counter or a message box or some arithmetic unit. This box can even be a PID controller. So this box can contain any such kind of uh, tool within it itself. So, as I've already told you that these functions are timers, counters, maths operation, including, I repeat, PID control. Now we come to AND operation. You all know the truth table of AND. AND means that when A and B both are on, when A and B both are on, in that case, you will say the coil gets energized. So friends, it's very important for us to understand that this is NO normally open, this is NO normally open. When this becomes 1 and this becomes 1, this becomes true, and this becomes true, the C will get energized. This is quite clear. Imagine, now imagine that this B actually is normally closed. It means you have some slash over here. This is normally closed. Normally closed means that when A is 1, this is true. When B is 0, this is true. When this is true and this is true, C will be energized. But the moment you put a slash over here, it means actually it is not B, it is B naught. It is B naught, right? So when A is 1 and B is 0, because B naught, if it is having a slash over here, just imagine a slash over here. In that case, this coil will be energized. Under any other condition, this C will remain off. I repeat, suppose it is having NC over here. I'm repeating, suppose it is having NC over here, normally closed. In that case, when A is 1 and B is 0, so not of B will be 1. Only then C will be energized. Any other condition, say A is 0, B is 0. If A is 0, this is false. B is 0, this is true because this is NC. I'm just saying, imagine it's NC, right? In that case, this is false over here and true over here. Power will not flow. It's in series. It will not flow and C will not get energized. I think I should not go beyond this because it's likely to result in some kind of confusion or information overflow. So I stop over here, simply saying that each rung or network on the ladder program, it represents a logic operation, and in this rung, as you can see above, both inputs A and B must be true, and in this case A is also NA, B is also NO, so both are true, both are 1. Only in that case the output C will be true. This is what we call it as AND operation. So wheresoever you have two relays in series, that represents a kind of AND gate or AND logic. So logically it is AND, both have to be true. Just the other variant of this is OR. As you can see, the two are in parallel, so it's quite explicitly known that either A is on or B is on. Any of the two are true, then C will be true, C will be energized. This is called OR operation. And finally, when we come to the types of control, all this what we have said is that they depend upon the current status. But then there are some types of controls which are called temporal controls, which are not dependent on the current status, which are dependent on the history. For example, you have a timer of 3 minutes. It means that some condition became true and it remained true for 3 minutes. Only then the output will be energized. So these are the things. Counter, for example, that it ticked for 10 times. So you keep a history of it. It has ticked for once, it has ticked for second time, it has ticked for third time. Only when it ticks for, let us say, 10 times, the output will be 1. So this is called temporal control. This is quite in contrast with the state control, whatsoever and logic or logic which we have or not logic which we have studied so far. That comes in state control. This is control which is based on the current state level. But in most of the cases which I have used and I have programmed, they are neither purely temporal nor purely state. They are a combination of both temporal and state. This is what we will be studying in the proper programming of this kind of PLCs. And that hybrid kind of control means that it will look at the current state as well as it is going to look at the history of the control, and then accordingly it's going to decide what kind of output should be there. So this kind of thing is called hybrid. Hybrid means it's having both temporal as well as the state control. break over here. We already have crossed 25 minutes, and we will be continuing from this point onwards in the next session. In case you have any queries, let me know. You want to share something, again, I'm available on various means related to the logic and to the troubleshooting of the PLCs. So I hope you have enjoyed this lecture as well. I thank you for being with me once again, and I wish you a very safe stay. Bye bye. Now we
So
come to,
friends, and
I will also
operation.
be discussing with you the list